So thank you so much for showing us, what have been done by the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce on this. And I would like to invite our moderator for this session, which is Bapak Widarmika Agung from Systemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Bapak Widarmika.
Terima kasih, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I think we are in the last session of today, the first day of COP. Let's give everyone in the room a big round of applause that we survived the first day, right? And you guys are still here, committed to learning, committed to the change that we're trying to do. So thank you, everyone. So I'm Widar from Systemic. Systemic is a system change company. We work with government, we work with private sectors, we work with communities, we work with non-profit to try to accelerate change to a net zero, nature positive, and more inclusive economy. And I'm very delighted to be here moderating our panel discussions today on regenerative forestry business, building community-based forest enterprises. So a quick rundown of what we plan to do today. First, we'll have an opening from Pak Agus. Pak Agus Justianto, Director of Sustainable Forest Management, Ministry of Environmental and Forestry from Republic of Indonesia. So Pak Agus has dedicated decades of his professional life in forestry and within the ministry. Thank you for being here with us, Pak Agus. And then we'll go to panel discussions. We have three exciting speakers as a panelist. Firstly, we have Pak Silverius Oscar Unggul, or famously or infamously known as Pak Onte, right? Pak Onte. So, Pak, the deputy chair, check, is a deputy chairperson for Environmental and Forestry of the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. That's check. Okay, so it's a fresh mic. So Bang Onte will bring a fresh perspective from the business community, right? And also as an entrepreneur himself. And then we will have Pak Rahman Adi Pradana, Senior Policy Director for Asia Pacific Conservation Indonesia. So Pak Adi will bring experience from activities on the ground from CI, right? And then we have Pak Ian De Cruz, is a Global Director at P4G. He leads effort to bring together global governments, business, civil society organizations for a game-changing partnership of important topics such as food, water, shelter, and energy. So thank you for being with us. And he will bring kind of perspective of global perspective, how to basically bring together multiple stakeholders to solve like complex problems such as what we are facing today, right? So without further ado, Agus to the stage to give his opening remarks. Silakan, Pak. Bisa? Also tired. Ini bisa di, oh sorry, bahasa Indonesia. The mic, can we use this mic?
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Mr. Silverius Oscar Unggul, Deputy Chairperson for Environment and Forestry, KADIN, Honorable Speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening. First of all, I would like to deliver my highest appreciation to Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIN, for organizing the discussion session. Secondly, I would like also to thank all speakers and participants for being here on this evening, still keeping the spirit in promoting robust climate action from various actors, including business actors and local community. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Regenerative Forest Business Sub-Hub program was initiated to support the capacity readiness of members of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry through the process of increasing knowledge about multi-forestry business, dialogue processes, and implementation readiness. Through this program, it is expected to support the strengthening of the implementation of sustainable forest management activities through the integration of multi-product businesses, including goods and services, produce from the agroforestry system, payment for ecosystem services, and non-timber forest products to increase the added value of the forestry business role. Moreover, the regenerative forest business is also expected to be implemented in collaboration with multi-stakeholders, including local community. The local community and customary people in Indonesia inherit the values of local wisdom to survive during the swift currents of globalization and modernization. The customary people still adhere to their traditional culture, including upholding the values of sustainability in managing natural resources as their livelihood. However, cultural shifting from traditional to professional and from subsistence to commercial may happen as cultural transmission of modernization from global to local level is unavoidable. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, I would like to address about the community-based forest enterprises, CBFEs, as the heart of sustainable forest value chain. Yet they face various challenges to access the market and to mature commercially. Traditionally, CBFEs sell at the local markets to accessible buyers, though sometimes no buyers are locally available. The value chain is fragmented and specialized. We have challenges. Sometimes forest products travel through many middlemen until they reach the final consumer. Each middleman takes a profit margin, reducing the price for the CBFEs. In addition, CBFEs also miss out on receiving information about consumer needs. Therefore, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry develops the Market Access Player program. Market access players are businesses or organizations willing to take on and fulfill many responsibilities along the value chain. They typically aggregate products from multiple communities. They work with the communities and indigenous peoples and sell directly to large buyers. They can invest in the expansion of their operation. Market access players collaboratively operate and take extra responsibility and roles compared to traditional middlemen, including capability building, collaboration, financing and equipment provision, aggregation and transportation, value-added processing, and sales and marketing. MFBs substitute the chain of many middlemen while seeking to optimize both social and environmental value on top of the economic value from their operations. The community can directly work with communities and connect them to the end consumer. Their business depends on building trust with the communities and investing in increasing their capabilities. By responding to a clear market demand, products coming out of the forest follow market trends and satisfy customer needs. This model, called market-driven approach, ensures that business is done sustainably to the benefit of both communities and the forest. As the business scale up, the CPFEs will grow faster and become financially sustainable. A successful business model can also be replicated by the market access player in other locations, thus creating a broader impact. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my remark, I would like to state that the Ministry of Environment and Forestry supports all initiatives and programs to build mutually beneficial cooperation in natural resource management, particularly to implement the multiple forestry product businesses through professional partnership development between private company and local communities in generating great benefit to both parties. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Agus. Very excellent opening. So as highlighted by Pak Agus, right, community-based, the topic of our discussion today, community-based forest enterprise as the heart of sustainable forest value chain. So that is the topic that we're trying to discuss today. We try to understand what is the role of community-based forest enterprises as a solution, mitigation solutions for our climate situations, right? And that's what we expect to discuss with our panelists today. So I would like to invite Pa Onte. Yeah, I think that's, yes. No, I think we have, or do you want to? Okay. I guess we need an exercise afternoon, yeah, Pa Onte.
Check.
Thank you.
Check.
Extra exercise is always good. Thank you, Pa Onte. And then I would like to invite Pa Adi and Pa Ian. Okay. So allow me to start with Pa Onte. Yeah. Pa Onte, you know, can you help us kind of start with understanding what is, in your perspective, in your understanding, what is community-based regenerative forest enterprise? Because it's it has two really important kind of buzzwords, sort of say, right? Community-based enterprise and also regenerative forest businesses. Please.
Thank you, Mas Widar. First of all, I think I want to back slightly to what the foundation, why we do this in KADIN, in Indonesian Chambers of Commerce. So when the new leadership of KADIN, Pak Arsot Rashid, so the tagline of KADIN is inclusive and collaborative. Inclusive means KADIN is a big home, not only for the big businesses, but also for the middle, small, micro, even social entrepreneur. Become a member of KADIN. And one very good example of inclusivity in KADIN is Pak Arsat put me as a vice chairman of KADIN for environment and forestry. And my background, I think 20 or 22 years activist, social entrepreneur, and I think he mentioned to me in the first day, we want KADIN more inclusive. So I do believe if we're thinking about the community-based businesses, like what I usually do, we need the private also. Because sometimes in community, in people, of course, we expert on social investment. We understand how to build the people organization, the cooperative and everything, including the conflict resolution mechanism and everything, I think. But we have a very big weakness on marketing, financing, and everything. And that side, our fellow friends in businesses is very strong. And then Pak Arsat say, why not combine these two expertise. So that's why in KADIN, I'm happy to learn, yeah. I learned from Ibu Elim here, yeah, Pak Dom, Pak Leo, many friends from KADIN with the businesses. And I come with my perspective on community-based. And then that's why we're thinking about regenerative forest businesses. So we try to combine our expertise in social and in businesses. In social, we also put many social in KADIN now, yeah. Ibu Amanda Katili, our mentors, Ibu Cynthia, many from social. And then we create this. We create the regenerative forest business hub. Regenerative means, I think, for easy understanding, regenerative, the opposite of regenerative is degenerative. Degenerative, why? Because the way we manage our forest maybe make our nature degenerative. If we only do the sustainable forest management, for example, we only not being worse, but yeah, in the same level. And then we thinking, oh no, we need to bring back capacity of our nature, become good. So we must do not only sustainable but regenerative business. And this item we learn together, because not of all in Indonesia, in Indonesian Chamber of Commerce understand what exactly regenerative for us. That's why we need this hub to learn between us. Learn between business, the expert business, the many Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, many company. We learn each other. We make a visit, site visit, and then
Check. I think
Sorry.
there's a
And then-
noise.
And then we make a dialogue. Yeah, after visit, we make a dialogue among us. And then now we entering piloting. We want now to piloting the regenerative model, the multi usaha kehutanan, multi purpose kehutanan. We want to choose maybe 1 or 2 or 3 members of KADIN become a place to piloting. We talking of course with Pak Agus and friends in Minister of Environment and Forestry. We willing to do the piloting.
Yeah.
So 1 or 2 place for piloting there, yeah. Pak Leo, President Directors of Indica Nature, I think one of the place we propose Indica place, yeah. Pak Leo, and we already talking to Pak Agus also, and maybe we want to see what the implementation of the multi usaha kehutanan with the regenerative way. We really want to do that. So that is the process in KADIN for 1 year, yeah. First meet, I think we thinking about this in Glasgow last year,
Yeah.
and we are happy until 1 year. I think we improve much, yeah, and I think this is a good process for KADIN.
Yeah. No, thank you,
Thank you.
Pak Unte. You mentioned that it is relevant for KADIN because KADIN is envisions to be the house not for only big companies but also community-based companies. And regenerative is something that is relevant, and it's not degrading but actually healing the natures, right? I'm going to Ian. We spoke. It's a bit out script, Ian, but we had a discussion. We had a discussion earlier. Like it was a good discussion. Talk about community-based business, right? You mentioned Pak Onte. KADIN envisions to be house for community-based enterprises, right? So it is it is there are already value chains that involve community, right? But Ian, can you kind of share your thoughts, right? What does a true community based enterprise should look like?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to allow P4G to be here. So P4G, my name is Ian De Cruz, the Global Director. Indonesia is a partner country, one of our 12 partner countries, and we have Bapanas, Minister Suharto as our co-chair, with Shinta Kamdani in private sector co-chair. So 3 points I'd like to make. The first point is the smartphone in 1992, 30 years ago, compared to the telephone transmission line. If you said that this would replace the telephone transmission line in a pandemic, be able to deal with finance, technology, entertainment, you'd say you're crazy. I really think that that timber-based forest management is the telephone transmission line. And what you're talking about multi-use benefits for the community is the smartphone equivalent. So I think that's important as the first point, that's how revolutionary I think this business model, and with Pak Agus, the regulation to allow that to occur is opening up a new way to look at green business models. The second thing is I came from the new climate economy where Indonesia was a partner with Ibu Sri Mulyani. And what we talked about is in this period, the most infrastructure investment will be south of the equator in developing economies. So they are the people who really have to make the decisions on trade and investment. They should be the market shapers, not the market takers, going back to the point of all these middle people who take a lot, but are actually not creating the value. And to answer your question, the third point, this is a personal view, but when we do things like slow coffee and we see the producer, in my mind, they should have 50% of that value chain. So anything that they produce in that community, for that community and intergenerationally, they should get 50% of all the entire value chain, which is a very different way of thinking. But if we start to look at these new business models from these green entrepreneurs at the community level and say, how can people like KADIN, how can people like Indicat, we talked about the pineapple company who already has this market share, get them to be the off-taker, to actually be able to ensure that demand is there. So the first thing is, who's going to buy this in this innovative way and be prepared to share the market value as transparently as what we just talked about. That's really important. The second, at the community level, how do you ensure consistency and quality at scale, but still keeping that community-based smallholder farmer concept? And that's where I think the corporates play a massive role. And that's why I think it's having the regulation with the vision of KADIN, having the small, medium enterprise at the heart of that value chain is critical. And then the third one is, how do we ensure that that 50% value is always maintained, but at the community level, that also there are trust funds created so that that community can continue to see the wealth generated in a multi-generational perspective.
Thank you, Ian. And going to Adi, right? Adi, I understand CI has activities on the ground, right? Regenerative or community-based forest enterprises or enterprises. Can you share about your activities on the ground and what are the learnings, right? The challenge and opportunity to scale from your pilots.
Gladly. Thank you, Widar. Hi, everyone. I'm Adi Padadana. I'm Senior Director for Policy at Konservasi Indonesia. So Konservasi Indonesia is a national foundation. We were just established last year. We are the main partner of Conservation International. Maybe you've heard more of it in Indonesia. But we are independent yayasan, but a strategic partner of Conservation International. So with that, we have over 25 years of experience working in Indonesia, supporting the government in many of its policies, but also working with corporations as well as communities on the ground. So one that I can share today is how we work with some communities in South Tapanuli in North Sumatra in developing some of the community-based forest businesses in two landscape. One in a forest landscape, and the second one is in a peatland landscape. So I guess in terms of how the engagement with the communities, it took a long time actually to build trust with the communities and working with the government. But what can we share is for each location, each typology has their own challenges. So for instance, for the forest in South Tapanuli, you need to work with the farmers, the palm oil farmers that actually have encroached the forest and built the plantations. Some are legal and some are illegally. So how then you work with that, farmers that already manage the land for decades sometimes. So that's why we work with the community directly, but also with the local governments in developing. First is the trust building. It took quite a while, and then slowly giving capacity building in terms of trainings, but also in terms of financing for them to learn about other livelihoods models like agroforestry. So what we did is we create a demonstration plot, and then with agroforestry trying to develop some other plants like fruits, and also including pineapple, but also others like coffee. So around in other areas of the forest, we also work with the coffee farmer that we trying to transform the operations, so not treeless coffee, but actually how to create the tree shaded coffee farming, and with that they can provide some additional sustainability tag into the product, which can then be taken by corporations like Starbucks, for instance, because Starbucks actually have quite rigorous and high standards, and then through the supplier chain, we can have the coffee farmers to supply to Starbucks, for instance, and that's only for the forest. But for peatland, then you have another different business models, because they're also planting palm oil in peatlands and then become not productive because it's peatlands. Then you work with the communities to look for other livelihoods businesses like fishery, like catfish in the canals, and also other livestock development with the communities. So we hope with these models that can be replicated elsewhere according to the topology, it also serves as the regenerative business, as Pak Onte discussed. It's like keeps on giving, right? That's how we see it, like how these models can be replicated and be supported by the communities and also partners like the companies.
And interesting, thank you for sharing. And do you have off-takers who are willing to invest on the community on your projects?
Yeah, so we in North Sumatra, we work with some companies. There are like a coalition of companies actually. One of them, for instance, is Unilever. So in that, we work with Unilever to see how we can improve the good agriculture practice of the palm oil, for instance, but also with agroforestry. So there's, like Paunte mentioned, like multi-purpose, not only focusing on the palm oil, which is more of a cash crops, but how they can diversify the products to not only relying on one. The second one is with Starbucks, but it's actually like the program itself has ended. But what we can share is uh, it's building the capacity for the coffee farmers to be able to fulfill the standards.
Yeah.
So the Starbucks and the supplier can take a long-term commitment
Yeah.
over 5 years to purchase the products and with a consistent supply and quality.
Yeah, thank you. So good thing there is off-takers willing to invest on the community. But Paonte, going to Paonte, this sounds like a lot of work, right? Regenerative is a lot of work, right? Working with community, a lot of work, right? Just trying to ask a provocative question such as, why should a company like members of KADIN, right, going regenerative, going community-based? What would you say to the business community so that they would like to go towards that directions?
I think sustainability issue is not choose. Yeah, we must do that. If not, I think we will left behind. That is the spirit in KADIN now. Yeah, I think since COP 26 last year, KADIN mentioned about the carbonisasi strategies in KADIN. That's why we have net zero hub in KADIN. But in net zero hub, we want make sure KADIN members not put more emission to the earth, yeah, with net zero. We want to convert our way to do business with the renewable energy, etc., etc. But with net zero hub, we're talking about from now to the futures. But how about the emission already there? Already make us more hot now or more, yeah, with all the problem of climate. How about that emission? That's why in KADIN we have regenerative regenerative businesses. In forestry, we start in forestry, but maybe in agriculture and everything, to make sure we can absorb the emission already there. That's two things in KADIN we want to do from now in the futures with the net zero hub, but with the last emission, we do the regenerative. We do that because, yeah, this is not the choice. If we not do, we will left behind. I think at least two businesses who not doing the sustainability. Yeah, I think we will lose the market. Now market is very peduli, very concerned
Yeah.
about ESG issue, sustainability, and everything. If we not do that, we lose the market. Second, I think we will lose the investment. Now, I think all the investment, yeah, require the ESG, the sustainability strategy, and everything. And if we do that, do not do that, yeah, we will lose the investment. Market and investment is too like blood for the businesses, right? That's why we, of course, we do know, this is a lot of thing to do, but in Indonesia, in Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, we really want to start. Yeah, of course, this is a long way to go, but we want to start now. That's why we have hub to learn each other, to learn from one company who has experience on this, and the other company have experience on that. So we want to learn together. That's why we have hub, regenerative hub, net zero hub in KADIN.
Oh, thank you, Bangte. So you believe in the future it's not a choice, right? It's not a choice to go regenerative. It's not the choice to go working with community. This is something that it will happen in the future, right? It will kind of influence your future. And whoever able to work in the regenerative way and working with community, which is working with the communities, can actually get the upper hand, right, Pak Conte? So going back to Pak Ian, I guess you've been to Indonesia enough that you understand Pak, right? It's right. So since we have bapak-bapak here, right, Pak Ian. So I guess would like to get your view, right? You have this global kind of a perspective. Is this regenerative, community-based regenerative businesses investable for the existing kind of financial institutions or community, right? Is it investable, right? And how big is the appetite for financial institutions to invest in this kind of businesses?
Thanks, Pak Agun. So I'm Australian by nature, so I'm going to be super direct. At the moment, absolutely not, right? It's not because we look at the world in the 1990s, not in 2050s, right? To Pak Onte's point, I think not only do you need to do this for market investment, you do it for yourselves, for your own community, right? For the whole issue of inequity. If you want your own community to be those green entrepreneurs, these terms that are going to be used at COP for the next 2 weeks, just transition, inclusive growth, this is what it actually means.
Yeah.
If we're really serious about these terms, these people are not victims of climate change or communities who need handouts. They're actually agents of change to create those new business models. So what we need is we've got enlightened regulation, but we need to prove this at speed and scale. So that takes risks. Pak Adi talked about it takes time with the communities, but we got to find some of these corporates now. I go back to the pineapple example.
Yeah.
Because if you have 25% of the market, global market on pineapple, that is an offtake. That is a scale that you can work with now. So my question to that company, and then with KADIN, and then to the community is how can we take that 25% market share now and create that green business model where all those pineapples are grown to adopt this model, right? So that's the first thing. How do you get corporates, Indicat with its new nature business, how do you invest now at that speed and scale? Not pilot it for the next 10 years, because if we keep piloting, I did this study in Australia in 2008 with the Ghana Climate Change Review. It predicted bushfires in 2020. And then when 2020 it happened, we go, oh wow, this study was so amazing. It's not amazing, it's called science, right? So we know what's gonna happen. So if we, definition of insanity, keep piloting away in 10 and 15 years and see what outcomes we have for the world. And unfortunately for Indonesia, that's not a choice, right? People in Java. So take these big corporates, do the scale now, create those green business models. And there's 3 key principles to me. One, how does the community 50%? Just, that's a rule. So whatever you create in that green business model, how does that community get 50% now and forever? Second, how do you ensure that that corporate demand creates a speed and scale of such size that you bring investors and financial blended finance mechanisms in? A lot of you will be going back to Indonesia for G20. Indonesia is going to announce a blended finance alliance. And I say, start from here. Don't start with BlackRock. Start with your community-based, regenerative green business models based on your pineapple Indonesian company for yourselves, right? Because if you can, what I like about the slow coffee example is you create a financial product where you take that income, which you've proven has an income stream, and give it to the community immediately. So that's really important. If you want that speed and scale, people have to see this as a market that they're investing in at scale and that the money can go to the community straight away. So I think if we do that, we'll get enlightened investors in. But the beauty for Indonesia, bring all those enlightened investors into your blended finance alliance. Bring them to invest into your community-based regenerative reforestation model with corporates in KADIN, Indicat, with the pineapple company now, and say, here's the business model. This is what we need to invest now for the future to make it investable.
Okay, thank you. Adi, anything to add?
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. So, just learning from what we did with Starbucks and Unilever, for instance. So both of them provide grants to Konservasi Indonesia and CI to actually train the farmers and for them to be able to provide the products, either it's coffee or palm oil, at the sustainability level and good agriculture practice that is needed. But then it's the dilemma of keep on piloting. We need to get to be at scale for them to do that. So, for instance, Unilever will invest on RSPO certification for smallholder farmers. We know it's really expensive to do it at each groups of farmers. The question is how we can scale it up at a very efficient way. I think maybe Pa Onte here with the Regenerative Hub can help find that pathways to ensure that, there's a group of farmers, like in South Tapanuli, we know they're at below level of the RSPO. So how then we can make the aggregation and capacity building in effective and efficient way so the whole jurisdiction actually can be can get to be a RSPO or ISPO other certification. So it can be as a sustainable sourcing, it can be prioritized sourcing for Unilever of the world, right? It's the same thing with Starbucks. Conservation International globally supports Starbucks to help achieve either 97% or 99% of sustainability sourcing. So it defined the criteria and standards how to get there. But it also needs to have, sourcing with the communities and help the communities to get there, right? So it's the same cycle, the same issues, how all the communities in this jurisdiction or kecamatan, kabupaten can actually all together can race to get that standard with the right pathways and financing from not only the companies but also from other businesses as well.
So thank you. So interesting. So this is really something new, right? There is a commitment, right? And then, like from your explanations, Adi, right? CI brings a solutions to this potential buyer, right? This is how you get sustainable sources, right? But we need to go beyond pilot, right? We need to go beyond pilot. So, Pa Onte, to go beyond pilot, any call to actions, right? To whoever you think is required to make this happen, what would be your call for action?
Maybe I will ganti, say ganti. Maybe not piloting, but we need the champions.
Yeah.
A champions company, who willing to do this. I believe there are many companies, members of KADIN, really want to be a champions. Not piloting, sorry. But champions to do what we believe, in regenerative, in sustainability, in of course the market is still grow, maybe not like very kelihatan now, but maybe in the futures. We believe that, because I think we grow to that. So I think first in KADIN we need the champions, company champions who want to do this, invest on the vision, not only I agree, but willing to invest on that vision, and of course we really want our government also to support, these champions or the initiative with the strong regulation. I believe now the regulation in place already. With the multi-purpose forestry in Indonesia, because Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, it's a really good regulation already there. But we need our government to implement this Ya, for example, for the apa nih namanya amdal-amdal itu loh, itu kan banyak yang mau. There's so many company willing to do, but the process is too bureaucratic. For example, yeah, how we make sure this system can be more efficient. So we need champions, we need regulation, and the third, I think we need like blended finance. Yeah, how we make the financing to support this vision, and I think this will be very good for us. And then the fourth is the like SDGs number 17, partnership between stakeholders in Indonesia, NGOs, academy, businesses, government, everything. We create the hub, and we will continue with this hub. So multi-stakeholders partnership. I think this is four things we really want in place to achieve this vision.
Okay. Thank you, Paunte. And I think we have time for questions from the floor, right? Any questions from the floor? Oh, please. Your name and your question.
Good evening, and thank you for the talk. I have a question. My background is in international human rights law and sustainable finance. I'm a research fellow at the University of Oxford. And I look into the whole question of just transition and sustainable finance. And you did mention blended finance now. How do you envision a future where everyone can work together and face the fact that we need to look into how this is going to be financially affordable and create a system that will allow countries to do it at their pace with the help of those that can invest into them and be more helpful? We cannot all do it slowly. It will take time. And I'd be very curious to know how you envision the plan and what you would advise financial institutions around the world would be a good way forward. Thank you.
It's a good question. So firstly, we don't have time. So anyone that says that we have to take it 5, 10, 15 years, it's not fit for purpose. The only way if it's not disruptive, transformative, then it's not, we're not in a steady state. We're not in an incremental approach. So with finance, transformation starts from within. And I'll give a good example. South African Pavilions there, Development Bank of South Africa, they have said that anything on green finance, domestically and international, will come through one place, the Development Bank of South Africa. So the first thing about that, which is so important, is a lot of finance funding is extractive. It's extractive. It's based on my rules, on my terms. So what countries I think need to do, like Indonesia, South Africa, Bangladesh, Vietnam, where I work with, Colombia, is what do you want? What do you want to implement your plans on your terms? So that's the first thing. Then then control all the funds. Don't let anyone come into your country and use your funds with one purpose based on your plan and priorities, right? Then the key, and this is part of today's conversation, it's not just the mega projects. Build into that the SME funds, the community-based development funds, so that you can also grow from within. So, the world is not a telephone transmission line, it's the smartphone. So what does that mean in your financing mechanisms that are coming in that can be much, much more participatory? So the characteristic of being participatory, community-based with those green entrepreneurs, I think is a third element to it. So firstly, take control, institutionalize it on your priorities. Third, ensure that the community-based financing mechanisms are also integrated. And then the fourth is demand from all the finance technology, from grant capital to development finance to investment capital. You want money on these terms, right? So that we will help build this infrastructure on community-based programming with regeneration, but work out how much does that cost. Start with your own Indonesian corporates and investment institutions, and then say, but this is the gap. So who's going to fill that gap on our terms? Not you're going to come in and I want to take this slice of the pie, because that's just extractive. And it's not developing something, it's not developing something cohesive. Yeah?
Anything to add? Yeah, Ian, a follow-up to that point, right? If I may, what is the challenge to achieving that vision at the moment?
Okay, this is a little philosophical.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use Indonesia, is start with yourself, right? So there's an SDG 1 fund in Indonesia. How much of that is subscribed? How much of that is implemented? So technically there's all these funds, but it's not being utilized, right? That's fact. So for Indonesia, because we're in the Indonesian pavilion, what do you want, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to use with your own revenue? What are you going to do with your own communities? What are you going to do with your own businesses first? Don't look outside, because that's easy. Like when people say, oh, let's get a global fund, let's get carbon markets, I said, you haven't done your own thinking. For whom? For what purpose? For what impact? The beauty of what we do here, it's very analytical, it's quantifiable, you have your national plans. So that's your strategy to unlock your innovation technology, not for others, not for the world to comply with for environment, for yourselves. So I'd say start from yourself, but be very clear about who you're delivering, for what purpose, what community, and I just go back to my 50% rule. 50% benefit directly to the community where they can see the benefit immediately, not in some 20-year horizon, immediately.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Fantastic. Any more questions from the floor? Please. Use this name and your question, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Nagla Jiburi from Sudan. It's very important topics. Maybe it's one management forest successfully by community. The community-based management is very, very important to conserve the forest and to increase income and to achieve the sustainable development goals, maybe to increase income and to the poverty reduction and many issues related to this. My question is safeguard. What about the safeguard sustainability in this business in the future and to sustain these businesses and to conserve in all the benefit after this work in the business in community base? Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for the questions. Excellent. So question is, you get the question, Adi? You want to go for it?
Sure, I can try. Thank you, ma'am. So just in Conservation International and Conservation Indonesia in general, we do have safeguards standards when developing projects. For instance, starting with the project development, working with the communities, we have FPIC, free prior informed consent, when working with communities, especially with indigenous people, like explaining how this project can affect them, positive and negatively. The other ones is environmental safeguards, but also social economic safeguards. I'm not an expert in that, but do put some standards in the project development. And working with the government as well, like there's what we're trying to do is put in place not only at the community level, but also, for instance, making sure that there's no like anti-corruption, there's no corruption, so anti-corruption safeguards is also important. But in developing policies, how we can ensure it's doing no harm, so do no harm. So it's a bit sometimes philosophical and hard to predict or project, but that's why we try, like using the standards and checking them with the internal team and with the partners as well, including the governments, in ensuring that we'll fulfill that safeguards as well.
Please.
The other thing I think, just very pragmatically, is think of that 50% and that economic safeguard as power and influence to participate on your terms, right? You're not like, here, can I have something? Is let's start from half. Because if you start from half, then at least you're saying, I want to be an actual partner here. I'm not being grateful for a handout, I'm a partner. Then the second thing I think to the safeguard is trust funds, so that for their own community, develop multi-generational wealth, right? So that this is not just for this generation, it's the next generation, third generation. The third thing that was super practical, and I saw this in South Africa again, in communities like Soweto, is build something to last. So in these communities, they create this whole community-based infrastructure where kids can go and play, get nutrition, where people can go and get jobs, where you can have entrepreneurs. But scaling from that local place in a permanent way gives a physical representation of this is wealth generation that every day you see is getting bigger and stronger on your terms. And so have people who can actually help structure that, but start with 50%.
Thank you, Ian. Excellent. This is like very engaging, late in the afternoon. But any more questions from the floor? No more questions? If there are no more questions, just want to go to each panelist to go to your kind of final conclusion remarks, right? Is anything you want, call for actions, concluding remarks that can help us kind of move this forward?
I think we know it's a long way to go, yeah, but we do believe together with learning and dialogue and everything, I think we can achieve that. I think it's important.
Terima kasih, Pak. Thank you.
I would say collaboration, like with communities, but also with businesses and the government, is really key, particularly to scale the community-based forest business, not only happening in the pilot, in the field, but can be replicated and scaled in the jurisdiction level, kecamatan, or the district, or even province, and even nationally. That's key.
Thank you.
I'd say in 12 months' time, I want to see a real solution, right? I want to see a solution at Park Ontate's Paro, Park Adi, Park Agun, Park Leo, whether it's pineapple with Indicat in a location, creating a green business model in 12 months' time, talking about that.
Thank you. Round of applause for our panelists. Exciting discussion, and thank you everyone for staying and excellent. Oh, there's one more. Good. No, okay. So, excellent. Thank you so much for staying and all the questions, and thank you for panelists. And let's go for actions. Let's see for solutions. Let's not stop in talking about pilots, right? Thank you, everyone. Let's move forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So before we wrap up this session, let's have a picture together for the session. Yeah? And ladies and gentlemen, this is our last session, and tomorrow please come back at 3 o'clock p.m. Because in the morning there will be another high-level event. So yeah, we would love to see you again tomorrow. Thank you for staying until this late. Bye.